Thank you. Good afternoon. This is Thursday, May 15th. This is the Mark. This is the Townsend Finance Committee. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. A roll call attendance, please.
Carol Mazinkas.
David Walker.
Carol Hoxis.
Don Hayes. That is 4. With that, we have a quorum. We can continue. The meeting is being recorded. It will be played back on Channel 9 and available on the YouTube channel. Are there any others recording the meeting? None being heard. We continue with no one else recording the meeting. Additions or deletions? No additions at this point, but there was a, as we move into the work session, there was a recommendation to discuss the Board of Health and the curbside pickup first. Do we want to take item 4 and take it as the first item? And maybe I do have.
I need to make a motion on that?
No, if we're good to go, we'll
Yeah,
take the items.
good.
out of
Yeah,
order.
that's fine.
Okay, and I apologize. Okay, and this, we enter into it a little bit, on the discussion. The Board of Health has invited us to a joint meeting on next Thursday night, to discuss the curbside pickup.
Okay, I won't be here then.
Okay, but
So you are gonna be in Ireland.
I will be in
you will
Ireland
be in
then.
Ireland.
Okay. That's what time, Dawn?
I think it was
6.
I think it's 7.
Yeah. So I'll get if we should have a forum, I'll get these meetings.
So do we have any sense from the Board of Selectmen if they support putting an article forward on what the Board of Health is suggesting?
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm happy to speak on my behalf.
Okay.
Not behalf of the board. We haven't taken an official vote
Okay.
or anything. I think we're waiting to see what their proposal is for next week.
Okay,
The concern is funding. We don't
Yeah.
have any money. And I think there's some concern about going against budgetary policy and using stabilization, but we're waiting to hear what comes up next week. We haven't right now.
I mean, I guess I would hope that if it's explained at the next town meeting, that more people would support the idea unless you get a better participation rate.
I think participation rate is going to be key.
Yeah,
I just drew numbers out. I didn't put them down other than just jotting them down. I don't even know people.
Is it a napkin?
Yeah, pretty much the napkin equivalent. If I had the amount of the fee right at $125 a year, if we get 2,000 residents to sign up and each resident used 1 bag a week for the 52 weeks, that would only be $614,000. And so it wouldn't cover the $780. So we're
well, but
talking-
the 780 though is also, I think if people are, if people are using 1 bag a week, I don't think we would have the tonnage fees that are in that 780 figure. Right,
Okay, you're right. And we did the math on that for less and took it down by 22,000. So we're still talking about,
no, I'm talking about, but I'm talking about the tipping fee
right.
that we would owe, because
So
it's 400,
Yeah.
400 for the base contract, right? And then a tipping fee based on tonnage.
right.
I know many people only put out 1 bag every other week.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, exactly, so it's
And I'm of the opinion, if they start going to annual fees and stuff, I may just go to. Just have Shaw's just come and do it myself. And I know a lot of
Mhm.
other people have.
Even though it would be more expensive?
Yeah, just because I get rid of the bags. I just can put my trash out, I don't have to pay fees, I don't have to buy purple bags, it's just getting. I think a lot of people, it's just getting too much.
Yeah.
And you know, with the taxes, you know, yet people have forgotten all about the CPA tax coming. Once that tax goes into effect, people are gonna be like, what the?
Mhm.
And then you got fees and everything else on top of this, and it's. You know, I walk a lot, I see a lot of people, and people are just down on taxes. And fees, and
So they'd rather just go private then?
some people said that they would just rather go private, if they gotta pay a fee in the purple bags, even if it costs more than they don't have to buy purple bags, they can just put their trash out. And be done and be done with it. And the more I think about it, I'm probably gonna do the same, even if it costs me a little bit more, it's more convenient. Um. And I'll tell, you know, like I said before, when we voted for trash like a dummy. I assume when we voted back when that $800,000 for trash. That
It was there.
that it was there. That money was there to pay for trash,
Right.
because that me, as a taxpayer who didn't know any better. Said, okay, my trash, and if it was a deficit, then oh, well, you guys gotta figure out where to get the deficit, but I want my trash to be paid for.
Right.
Cause that's what I voted for. So part of me as a taxpayer. After learning that lesson, it's almost like, why am I even voting for a warrant article? Because basically you've told me in the past that when I voted for a warrant article, it doesn't mean anything.
I think it depends
I
on
can
the
see,
warrant article.
I can see where you say you wanna spend 100,000 for a dump truck, and that
Right,
really,
yeah,
it's on the capital plan. But some of these articles, it doesn't matter, cause you may not get, if the money may not go to what I think I'm voting for. And that also upsets a lot of people.
Mhm.
When you're voting for a warrant article and it doesn't come to fruition. And it goes to some other pot of money to cover some other expense. Then it's like, and I'm just talking from a regular normal taxpayer who doesn't. I understand, cause I never understood until I started.
It gets
Confusing here. So when you're voting and all of a sudden your vote. Doesn't matter because they use the money for something else. And I understand it can be
Yeah.
it depends on the article, but still, you're voting for some things and it doesn't always.
Right, and I
Work
think
out the
that-
way that
right.
you voted for, so then that puts a sour taste in the taxpayer's mouth. And that's all I'm saying,
Yeah, I think it's not this specific article per se, as much as the article that has to do with the general budget. With all the individual lines on it. In it, so the trash, when we did the override, it was to fund the general fund to pay something that was part of. Of the operating expenses of the town. That's,
but
It-
I know, but then when you say in the article,
Mhm.
this is the paid for trash.
right,
It doesn't say, oh, well, we need money in the general fund to pay for all these bills.
Exactly.
Instead, the thing said, this is the pay for trash.
right, and I think that's the difference is. Even in our recommendation sheets, we had been trying to explain a little bit more, but.
Mhm. No, I-
The actual transparency, we'll call it
That's
transparency,
it.
or the understanding of what does this really mean? What does this article mean in relation to the
Well,
budget?
right.
And where it's
I
going?
know, we're trying to do that, but
Yeah,
I'm just talking,
I'm thinking that that's a shift from what we had been doing.
yes,
Because and I think the biggest one was last year, when we were when we didn't have enough money, we had to pay for the schools out of the general fund, and then we did all these other iterations in the same meeting. It wasn't clear that it was to fund the trash for the contract for the remainder of FY 25. And that was the piece. If everybody was clear and understood it, I think that's the piece. So it's kind of like, and again, that didn't happen until 15 minutes before the meeting, because Ashby had voted
Oh, yeah,
the school
School, yeah.
budget, and that shifted the focus of that whole meeting. And what the outcome was gonna be. But it points well taken with it, but with it, and back to what David said about the money, you're right, I didn't take actual tonnage in here. But if it's 2,000 people and 250, we still have to come up with 250,000 from the page throw bags. To pay the curbside pickup before tipping fees. So little more math to be done to see where it's going. But you're right, if we're short, and I've gotten out my scale and grabbed my bag and stood on it and then let the bag go. So I know that it's a math thing. It's kind of like, can you picture it? It's kind of like get the scale out there. It was about 30 pounds in the bag. So now you can start.
Oh, so
You can
is
do-
that like one purple bag or one of the?
One
trash?
purple
I
bag.
can get
One-
three
okay.
kitchen bags into
One-
one purple.
Yeah,
bag.
one.
Yeah,
one-
I can get three.
Yeah,
I can
one-
pack a lot more poundage than that in the purple bag.
Right, yeah, well, that's the thing, it's kind of like, it's gonna be an average, some people do less, some
Yeah.
people do
But I
more.
can do,
Mine's
yeah,
really
kinda like-
thick, though,
but-
yeah.
yeah,
That's sort of to get you a rough, you
Right,
know, what is the tonnage gonna be if it's one purple bag per?
yeah. And then, well, the other problem with the tonnage too is the recycled tonnage,
Mhm, right,
because that would be harder to estimate.
right, and
Um,
that's higher.
but I mean, we have some figures on that, right?
Right, we had tonnage figures for both. So,
Yeah,
like, so we can go back and then see if they've advanced them, because I think that was February or March that we.
so the
did
math that we would need to do is to take the tonnage figures on the trash and apply your little
Mhm,
estimating formula to figure out how many bags does that represent.
in a ton, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what the number was, I did that before, it's kind of like, but it.
Because then you could get a good, okay, this is the proportional, the
Mhm,
tonnage goes up, the number of bags is gonna go up, the tonnage goes down, the number of bags is gonna
Right,
go
and do
down.
we have enough in there?
Yeah.
The other part is if we are gonna support this, what happens if we're short on the total bill? And we come to the end of and we have to come up with more funding, where did, we have to think about where funding would come from.
stabilization.
Well.
Or
but-
free cash next year. Cause we'll have
But you-
some,
But,
I think so.
but I understand that it's not a good thing to say, I'm gonna rely on that.
right, yeah, that's the thing, it's kind of like, we gotta think about, is there
Yeah, we gotta
a
think
nice
about the-
recurring?
It's this year, but it's also,
Yeah,
Next
the
year.
following years.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to see it get back to the point where we could get rid of the, the $125. I'd like that to go away completely, but I don't know how we're ever, I don't know how they get there.
The only way that's ever gonna happen is if the,
Taxes go up,
if the state finally
comes up.
comes up with the money for the
Somebody-
schools that they owe us.
Yeah, I think-
That they're not going to
I
act
read-
on it.
Yeah,
Oh, is that right?
I
I've
heard
been
that
doing some reading and they
legislatures-
said formula stays the same for next year
Yeah,
So-
but they refuse to take that up in the, whatever.
in the
the-
general
In the assembly,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
So think about that when you go to the voting polls next time for the state.
Yeah, but that's the piece, it's kind of like,
So no funding for schools, no additional funding for schools.
there may be a supplemental, if they do something, it's separate, the plan is not to change the formula.
Or give us
Yeah.
emergency funding or anything.
Right, and again, we don't know, with federal cuts and reducing, what was it, 106,000 or 106 million to education, that there might be less that the state has to available for.
They can always reallocate money. It can be done at the federal level, it can be done at the state level.
Yeah.
It's just the willingness to do it.
Yep. Okay, so
Yeah.
like. I was
So,
gonna
so it sounds like we're not really in a position to make any kind of a vote on trash tonight then.
I don't think tonight, but knowing that there's a meeting next Thursday with Board of Health. Get our thoughts together and see.
Well, I think the big thing that you'd have to do is that estimating that you were talking
And they
about.
may have, so I can reach out and see if they've already done
Yeah.
those kinds of things.
I bet they did.
You said 30, you've got 30 pounds in the bag?
Yeah,
So how many was that, like 3 trash bags?
that's, yeah,
Three
that's,
trash bags.
yeah, or 2 plus, I do a lot of small bags.
So for the tonnage estimate, though, it might be better than to estimate 40.
You could, if you do 40 and, you'll get the people that, really stuff it and really make it heavy. Maybe I don't make it heavy because I've heard about the tearing, but
Right.
I'm always careful.
Yeah,
They're not the greatest bags in the world.
No,
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 but Sam, when Sam talks, I picture him with his foot in that thing, pushing
Yeah.
it.
Right.
Push, the way he talks, I see him pushing
Oh,
that.
yeah,
I used to jump in the barrels, like,
So-
yeah.
crush it down.
So, yeah, I guess if you did 40, at least you'd be,
Right,
probably closer, and it's
Yeah.
better to be a little over,
if it's over and conservative.
yeah,
Forty's
Yeah.
a hundred.
yeah, it is.
But it is, but 40 is
Uh,
easy now, so.
or maybe do 40 and 30 and
So
say,
that's
okay, there's the
50.
Only
range.
35 and,
Oh, it's split the difference, go
Yeah.
35, yeah,
I
okay.
mean, at 40 pounds into a ton, it's 20 bags. 40
Yeah,
times.
so 35, yeah,
No.
split the difference, it's probably close,
More
that's
like
probably still
50
about,
50 bags.
uh. Then see what, the
Yeah,
Board of
50
Health
bags.
comes up with.
So,
Um,
we can do that. We can see and come up with those numbers and see. And just consider it equal amounts for the recycling, just to give.
Well, I think for the recycling, you can just base it off the historical numbers. Because that one, there's no,
There's nothing to measure.
with the trash, it's kind of like you're trying to figure out, okay, how much
Mhm.
bag revenue are we gonna get on a ton?
Mhm.
Whereas with the recycling, there's no revenue side, so you can just say, well, this is what this is about what it's gonna cost us.
Right, but and the difference with today's recycling versus future recycling is today we pick up everybody's recycling. So the tonnage could be higher in the future with the fee, you're only picking up people that are paying for it.
Right,
So it's kind of like, I don't know how many people are doing recycle only curbside currently.
well, if you
So-
went private, do they pick up the recycling as part of that?
Some will do it, some will just put it out on Fridays. Many times you can drive around and see just recycling buckets out, many of
I
them.
would ask my daughter, because she does private, I think she
Mhm.
does both.
They,
I think
yeah, they
she-
do
I
both.
know,
They-
I know,
private, I think they throw it all together and.
I don't know,
They-
I
they-
think, no,
Yeah.
she has 2 barrels, a recycling barrel,
Yeah, right,
and a
Yeah.
thing. And I know she contracts with Shaw's, all right,
Mhm.
so I'll have to ask her,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she puts out both.
Right, I expect they do, but it is because it's curbside pickup, if you don't have a purple bag and you've only got recycling out there, they'll pick up any recycling at the end of the curb. So it may,
They
maybe.
didn't pick mine up Wednesday. They didn't take my trash or my recycle barrel.
Really?
Well,
Yeah, I called them today, they said, well, we'll leave it out and we'll send someone by.
okay,
They didn't do it today, I don't know if they're saying they'll send someone by tomorrow.
tomorrow's regular Timberlake Park pickup, so that's not too far.
Yeah, maybe that's what she was kind of implying, is that somebody will swing by tomorrow to get it.
Hmm.
But I really wanted it picked up Wednesday, cause I'm leaving Tuesday
Right.
night, so I'm not gonna be
Yeah,
putting it out next Wednesday, I don't really want it sitting in the garage
Yeah.
for
Oh,
That's
yeah.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
We're with you. Okay,
But anyway,
any further?
So just wait on it, I guess.
Yeah.
and it sounds like it, yeah, I think so.
Okay, then, so we'll go back to item one, which is discuss annual town meeting. I wasn't quite sure whether it was the half that's already happened or the future or forward. It's kind of like, so we are gonna have, the second half of the town meeting, starting at, well, when it was, and going forward. In addition, there are additional warrant articles that will be introduced and brought up.
As a special town
And-
meeting, right?
I believe in a special, similar will, because you can't add to the
Right,
warrant once it's been
right.
posted, it's only the way.
What makes it a special town meeting? I mean, a special warrant article when you're having the annual warrant articles, which makes those like special rather than just be rolled into the annual warrant article.
Some of it is the timing, when you look at the, bylaws, it says that the annual warrant has to be generated for the 1st of March. And so you have to finish those articles so far ahead, special articles, and other items that come up need to be dealt with, so a lot of cases, that's why we have those specials. At least
Are there,
my understanding.
have you heard of other specials that they're looking to add?
I had forwarded to them, I don't know if it's gonna make it, I'll check next week. Ashby had done an article with a revisited an article that had used free cash to pay for a capital item. And then they created another warrant article, in a future that asked to rescind that and take the free cash, put it back to free cash and use funding, borrow.
Borrow instead?
Instead.
Yeah.
So,
So you're thinking of maybe trying to do that for the truck?
yeah,
I think we have to, because the truck was borrowed on money. I don't think we can mix the other. I think that has to go back to borrow.
I would like to do it because that would,
Well, Melissa
Give us-
was actually the one from that really suggested it,
okay,
right?
right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, ideally, that's really what you wanted, but you can't offer an 81,000 borrow up there. It's kind of like, but now that we're gonna have the borrow for the highway truck. Now you can go out, you can put those two together. Because
Oh, okay.
because
Put
the
it
money
into
for the,
One, right.
and put it into one bundle
One bundle.
and vote on the bundle in.
Okay.
And get a bond on the, because we can't go back and reopen because the fire truck bond has already been taken, the money's already there, so you can't go back and open that one up again.
So we have to go
And add to it, so then we have to do that, so it's kind of like, and 81,000 isn't that much to go out with,
Is it
so.
81 or 83?
I thought it
It was
was.
80, I thought it was 81. but-
I use 81, but I think it was 80,800
Okay,
and
all
change.
right. Some
That
reason.
does sound like the more appropriate avenue if we're there.
Right,
Well, exactly.
yeah, and then you've got some other free cash that we can either use for another, something else on capital planning, and change the funding sources there. We can definitely guarantee, one of the articles coming up is the $10,000 for the assessor's office, to fund into an account so that, the Patriot, revaluation is paid for. So that we borrowed, or we put money into an account for 3 years. And then on every third year, the assessor will go out.
Do we have a maximum amount of money that can be borrowed for the town?
Well, we do, but I don't know what it is.
But we're not near it.
No,
No, and if we can go back to Melissa's report and see when some of the funding things are gonna start coming off. And see when we can add to it with some of the other items.
no, we lost some money though too, didn't we, with that housing thing, the housing grant?
Um,
100,000.
Yeah, so that's a piece, Yeah.
That's a big piece.
That's a big piece. There was 100,000, for ARPA funds put to the housing trust and paperwork didn't get completed. I think then, so the idea was to use that money to offset some salaries, and bring it in. And when the paperwork was filed, between the people we have doing it, it looks like it's not an acceptable practice to take that money, reassign it to the salaries, and, so it looks like that 100,000 will need to be returned.
Do we need to return the interest too?
I think if I don't.
I think we do.
Yeah,
You think we
I
could?
do, I do.
everything, yes.
I think
Yeah.
the discussion last night, what day, Thursday,
Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday, the interest is not get returned.
It's not, doesn't have to be returned the interest, so that's good.
Just the amount of,
There's a question about where it goes, but that's.
right.
But it is 100,000.
But I don't think, I'm not 100%,
No,
but that's the guidance
Mm.
that I understood. It's not a lot, I think like 6.
no.
Right,
Oh, you mean in the interest or?
Yeah,
the-
the
Oh, the
interest,
interest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 6,000 at this point,
Yeah.
somebody's a lot.
6,000.
For us right now, 6,000
Yeah, no,
is.
But so the question, it's sitting in that,
Yeah.
the housing trust.
Yeah.
So
Right.
The question is where it goes and I think
Paperwork
that's to be determined.
Oh, yeah, doing this.
Sorry, it's just kind of different note. Speaking of money, and little bits, I think there's $800 somewhere that we might be able to capture and bring back.
Okay. Every little bit helps.
It is, it's kind of like, but, it was a revolving fund that was opened, by the building inspector. And the high school, as they were building, was putting money into that fund. And so that they would pay for the outside inspectors to come in because it was beyond, what we needed, because it was all metal, they needed X-ray, for the joints and things.
Yeah.
So there was a revolving fund set up, so when the revenue came in, and for that, it would fund itself, from the school, but that revolving account has closed because the school's completely built, we're not using it, so a little bit of money in there, they might be able to really close it and bring the money out. It's kind of like, so, it's just a thought.
Is that a town fund?
It's a town fund, yeah,
Okay.
so because the building is in Townsend, over at the high school, when they were
Right,
building it, our building inspector was
the one responsible for it.
responsible for it, and so.
Okay.
There were charges, very much like regular
Yeah.
building permits, but the regular building permits were not special, and he was able to handle those, so there was no reason to have a revolving account.
Right,
When you
right.
have to contract out.
Right.
They created the revolving account.
Yeah.
For that, and, it's dropped off the list, and it's, like I say, just a tiny bit of money in there.
How much was it?
It was about $823, I think, when I looked at it. So, just, anything else from the town meeting? Questions? I know both of you was the first time you've been part of the finance committee at an annual town meeting, so.
I think there's gonna be an article about, the constable.
Okay.
Oh,
Hmm,
okay.
About reinstating it,
Well, I guess, make it an elected position, not appointed, and bring it back. I mean, that was only $25 compared to, $25 an hour compared to whatever, quite a larger amount.
Yep.
Yeah.
right, and I
Oh,
have
the
seen,
$30 versus the $80 or whatever.
Well, it would be a special, yeah, yes.
yeah, $200 a day versus $800 a day.
Yeah.
Whatever the numbers were,
Similar to that.
close, right, yeah, and it's kind of.
how does an article get generated?
Well, you have to take out,
There's a couple of different ways. It's kind of, the select board will, generate some articles themselves. They'll reach out to department heads and ask for if anybody needs any warrants on the article. Recently, I have been submitting some, to be reviewed to see if they get, added, and so they're reviewed at the select board meetings, and they choose to put them on the warrant or not at that point.
There's also citizen petitions.
And the citizens petition is the final way. A citizens petition with certain number of signatures automatically. So the 5-person board was a citizens petition warrant article.
Okay, I'm assuming the constable one will be a citizen's petition as well.
I mean,
I said, I'm assuming the constable article would be a citizen's petition.
yes, I would assume
Citizens petitions just have to be checked to make sure they're within the law.
I can't hear you. I'm
The
sorry.
citizens petitions just have to be checked by council to make sure they're,
Within the law, and then the signatures on it.
They have to have like 100 signatures or something.
Oh, and the signatures are all valid. or whatever.
Right, the signatures have to be certified by.
Obviously, have to,
town
yeah,
clerk.
yeah.
And so on.
Okay.
Okay, and I will just make note, our next one is June 18th. Obviously, with that day being, if we don't get completed, and I did mention it to Nelson when we spoke, the next day is Juneteenth, so we wouldn't be having the following night would not be on the 19th, because that's the state federal holiday. It's kind of, so it's kind of like things are closed, town hall is closed, it's kind of like, so.
So, okay, so now we're at the 18th
Mhm.
and the fiscal year ends June 30th.
We're getting close.
Yeah.
So,
This is,
so worst case scenario,
Mhm.
stuff doesn't get approved or whatever,
Okay.
or just, or goes on to midnight because. So how do we get to the point where we gotta have some budget by like within 2 weeks?
we do, and I'm also gonna read the finance. Outlook, and see if there's something in there, if we didn't fund the schools would continue on the prior year's budget on a 1/12.
So
So
the town-
funded month to month, I think the town will do the same thing,
That's what we did during the first year of COVID, when we had to put the meeting off until
July,
July.
Outside.
So it's like the departments, I shows from the library, the departments go to 1/12 of what the previous year was.
Okay,
okay.
okay.
Yeah,
You don't
thank
wanna
you.
do that.
Yeah.
We don't wanna do that.
We don't
but
want- no,
that's
we
the
don't-
process,
Yeah.
But, okay, I
Yeah.
mean.
not recommending it.
Well,
Right. No, no, no.
only because even the last town, at our last meeting, some of the articles that I thought were like no-brainers were like took forever.
I think everybody in the select board is of the feeling that the budget should be first.
And because that's what I suppose it depends. if
On the
it's something
18th, I think so, because that's where we
That's where
basically
we
stopped.
Split,
Yeah.
but it's a matter of, do you
Although the special town meeting articles might,
supersede it for?
those would have to go
But that-
first, right?
Right.
They don't,
But,
That
well,
will-
they weren't as quick as I thought they were
No,
gonna be.
but-
They spent an hour.
and
on
we
just
could
one.
do the special town meeting after. We
Right,
completed the annual
right,
town meeting.
it could be,
Sure.
right, and it could be based on what articles there are, does it make, if an article for financing the fire truck and freeing up free cash, that may need to be done before
Yeah,
something, something else if we need, but that's gonna be a decision between moderator and select board. To pull it together once the next special town meeting.
That really cuts us short. What was that?
my foot, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Hitting
Oh,
the
fine.
table.
So that really leaves us cut short to leave the
Wait, it
24th,
does, but I
25th
just.
and 26th. I mean, that's pretty close.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's,
Yeah.
That's tight.
yeah, it's a tight thing, and if we get wrapped around just one article that, just the whole, just the
Even the budget,
bylaw
the budget.
article on going from 1 acre down to.
Yeah.
From 2 acres to 1 acre was like, Man, that went on and on and on and on and on like that. And she was at all our planning board meetings. She was at every planning board meeting where we discussed the septic systems and explained to her 9 million times. But anyways,
No.
we'll have
it's kinda
that
like-
happy time.
At the Moon Park half acre, so it's kind of like, we have, and all those septics passed.
Yeah,
600.
I mean, I've lived in a lot of half acres
Mhm.
lots with
Right,
with,
it's got a test and visual what else.
septic systems, and
Mhm.
it's more planned to boot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, no, there. We get it, so,
Well, so just for your information, the last week of June, I will be out of town as well.
okay, yeah,
Oh, the 24th, that week?
The 20th, I will be out of town from the 21st to the 29th.
Oh, how lucky you were.
Is this a pleasure?
Pleasure, that one.
mhm,
Oh, wow, okay.
okay.
Another vacation, and I won't come back during that.
Yeah, no, and that's why between now and then, we'll see what we have.
Yeah,
For members available and get it, so we'll, yeah, okay, so nothing else on the annual town meeting past and future, okay.
and it sounds like we've got, what, 3 possible articles?
3 possible.
Or three probable maybe might be a better way to say it.
Could they?
You got the trash, oh no, before, did you get the trash? The loan, the
Like-
financing,
Yeah.
the fire truck financing.
Yeah, if they do it, yeah.
The constable,
If it's
well, maybe that was the third one, maybe there's 3.
Yeah. That we, yeah, so we'll.
Well, that could be all later.
And they're gonna close the warrant next week,
Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday, so we'll.
For sure it's
we can
Tuesday.
tune in.
23rd,
20th?
23rd, I think, pretty sure.
That'd be a certain amount of time ahead of time, right?
Yep.
So,
23rd, I believe it is, don't, like,
Okay.
okay.
I believe,
23rd, which is the Friday, so that will get you after the Board of Health meeting.
and,
That's the day after.
Yeah, but so you can have a placeholder,
You want, you can,
you can have a placeholder, and then the final wording would have to be by the 28th, which gives
Okay.
legal time, because then we have to post
Right.
it.
We gotta post it 2 weeks
Okay.
before, which gets you into the,
So, yeah, so the placeholder just
Yeah.
needs to be, the wording needs to be complete in order to give
Yeah.
council on time to review. Come on, I understand.
okay.
That'd be fun.
Maybe this is something else,
Mhm.
still.
So, I had put in here, review the select board, town administrator omnibus budget. I'm not sure at this point that makes sense if it's gonna be modified because of the funding for the streets. It may not, I don't have an updated one yet,
Okay, that's
so it's
fine.
gonna,
Mhm.
so if they're gonna take the ARPA funding out of the highway, and that's gonna change, that will change.
They're gonna take the $100,000 shortfall, you're saying?
They had already put into their budget $100,000 into the highway and streets. So they had taken the Townsend Housing ARPA money
Into the highway department,
into the highway department,
Okay.
reducing those salaries by $100,000.
okay,
So if we're not able to use that $100,000.
has to come out.
so they have to decide what they're gonna do with the highway department, is what you're saying?
Well,
I don't think the intention, I think that was just where it was put.
It was,
Yeah,
it was
it's
put
not-
because
We
it was.
just have to figure out where.
Right.
Yeah.
He's already given money.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, no, it
it's
wasn't-
kind of like.
We're not
no,
gonna
that-
mess with that.
No, I understand. So are you saying that we may be applying that $100,000 somewhere else?
No,
To
it could
be determined.
to be determined. It's kind of like once.
When do you think you'll have
I
that
think
budget?
Nelson's talking to departments right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah,
so
so
we have to,
another week,
I'm waiting to hear, I hope
Yeah.
there's something soon, so. But I would hope to be able to bring some.
Cause you wanna be able to look at it before town meeting, for sure.
One before. It-
Or
it's
like
kind of
like a week.
Couple.
It would be
Yeah,
nice.
the public too, we want the public to be able to look at it too. so.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, so there were no real cuts or anything. They just reduced the salary line by ARPA money because you can't put ARPA money in the omnibus budget.
right.
So that line of salaries could handle the $100,000, so that's where the bulk of it went. Because that was pretty much the only line that had enough, that was high enough. So with the changes, it's kind of like, we'll see where that goes. And then we'll start reviewing that. And then I had review,
Don, can I?
Yep.
Do you mind if I explain one thing real quick?
no,
Just, it's okay with everybody here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of question on why the budget was only going up by 0.5% and not the 2.5% that were allowed. I don't know if you guys got that question. But, so the rationale for that was last year. The budget that we went forward with at our annual town meeting was set based on the tax levy. And it was balanced. The override failed, right? And the town administrator and the interim town administrator and the select board in place came up with that additional close to $1 million, not through the tax levy, but by other means, the purple bags, some other ways,
Mhm.
and didn't cut salaries in that process, right? So the budget that we ended the year with was significantly higher than what was balanced based on the tax levy. So if you look at how much we could go this year, it was off that number that had changed.
So we're going illegally?
No,
no,
no, no,
no,
no,
no,
no,
no.
not at all.
Is that on the recap sheet?
It, it's, you mind if I?
Yeah.
Okay. So. This is last year, and this is just budget for anybody who's watching.
Yep.
The number that we had,
It's
Sorry.
more than 2.5%.
so the number that we went into with the town meeting last year. And this is, a lot of people ask this. 26,542,000. That was balanced budget. With the taxes to be collected. And an override was put forward to fund the school,
Okay,
right?
right,
That override failed.
right.
Ashby and Pepperell passed the school budget.
That's right.
So we had to come up with the money. So we came up, the previous select board, town administrator.
You could
interim-
just say
yeah.
we, collectively.
The town,
The collective we.
the town came up with that money from a variety, and Don can say the variety of sources, and the end result was that we had 27,456,000. So it was almost $1 million higher than what the tax levy had allowed.
Okay,
So the budget that we're dealing with now is 0.5% off of that new number.
Okay, so it's 2.5 off of the base.
Yeah, it's a
number.
little higher than that, anybody,
Yeah.
you can calculate
Yeah,
that, a
okay.
little higher than that, which is to be expected with the school.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
But so that,
But it's-
it's kind of, we were doomed before we started
right.
this year.
And legally, is the 2.5 allowed based on this number?
No,
Or is it
no.
No.
It's not based on that number at all.
It just has to be balanced.
based on the levy,
It's based on the levy and how
on the
much.
previous levy?
for the-
okay.
the
So that
previous
0.5% is all we can do to get a balanced budget within the tax.
levy. No, I was just calling it the.
Sorry, thank you.
Two
I
budget
sh-
points. No, thank you.
No,
That was,
It's-
it was a question that people asked, and
okay.
it took a while to.
It,
Figure it.
yeah, there's a lot of discussion on how to come up with it and what did we actually do in that?
And I think it kind of shows the things that happen when you use one-time sources
Yeah,
of
that-
revenue
right.
and how it trickles forward
Yeah, I mean,
into what you can spend the next
yeah.
year.
pretty much everything we did in that meeting was one-time funds. And
For last year.
For last year to balance that budget. It's kind of like, and it was close to $1 million. There was a little stabilization. There was extra money that came from ambulance receipts that, again, ambulance receipts cannot go directly to general fund. It has to go into funding fire and EMS. So there was an extra 100,000 that they had. We had the new town administrator, line. His salary was lower than the prior. So we decreased a couple of lines. There were a few more lines of clawbacks on accounts that had balances in them that we weren't using anymore. So that was in there. So there was just a lot of these little pieces added up. And then the bags, at the time, there was, the estimate for the revenue was 550,000. So that's the biggest chunk of
And
it.
that 550 was supposed to go from October through June,
And
correct?
when we got to December, the Department of Revenue looked at the numbers and said we weren't gonna achieve it. So that's why in December, we had the ARPA money shift and an additional 200,000 of ARPA funds were brought in to balance and make up what the difference.
Go Shag.
Boston Public Schools said in part, we are fully committed to meeting both our moral responsibilities and legal obligation to provide high-quality education services to our students with disabilities. They wouldn't comment on the specific student situation.
You also have to bring up the HR position.
Specialized
Right,
At some point,
that's,
I'd like to bring it up. Are we listening? I don't know, did we
no,
hear that?
that was not us, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Get rid of
seems,
the HR position.
Yeah, the HR position, that, I mean, that was, with ARPA funds and that
Yeah,
shouldn't be, and,
But
I don't think we need that. And and for years, HR was taken care of by, until, recently, was taken care of by the town administrator. And we don't have a problem every day, I don't think,
no,
you know.
right.
And isn't the department heads, aren't they supposed to handle it and then go to the TA? And then if nothing can be settled, then you have to go out to arbitration. I just don't think we need that position.
no, and I agree with you, because it should never have been hired in the first place.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And can we afford it after the upper funds
Right,
go
well,
away?
that's
No,
the
we
piece.
really-
that's kind of like what it-
For what I understand, 27 is gonna be even a worst case.
It,
I think it
I
could be.
suspect it will be.
So we,
Yeah.
So we should bite the bullet now, then you don't have another year of
that's right.
unemployment benefit. Then it'd be 1 year plus year of
What is it?
whatever, however it's calculated
Yeah.
or whatever, or paying benefits and. No, I agree with you there.
Do you know how many employees do we have? How many employees, yeah, how many do we have?
Total.
Yeah,
I,
Remember
it's
saying
kind
I
of like,
just saw, well.
Yeah, it's-
and how many are union members?
I think a
Well,
lot of
it's
them,
too many.
so.
yeah, a lot of them are.
Are you actually asking a single number for the whole town, or do you want to
No,
break it down by?
No, I don't wanna break it down by
Correct,
department, I want a
correct,
whole
correct.
town.
But I would say, I'm gonna guess the majority are union.
Well, it's been,
So that could, that's why I think it's important that the union be contacted and we talk to them before the budget, because how are we possibly going to
right,
come to a solution?
right, it's kind of like we won't.
Because you
unless-
can't, I don't see why you can't talk to the union and say, okay. We got a budget crisis here. We
Right,
don't get X, Y, and Z. We're gonna have to do something, so we wanna know ahead of time.
well, that's like pitting the employees against each other. I mean,
Well,
this
yeah,
group gets
no,
A and this,
well, so this is when I'm with you and Mary Jane. If we're gonna do any kind of personnel cuts, they gotta be straight across the board. And you can't pick and choose who gets cut and who doesn't get cut. Everybody's gotta, and that includes the fire and police and everybody.
And that's all part of union negotiations.
Right, yeah,
They can come back with something different with the amount given to even.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
it's like, that's part of the reason, right?
right.
But a lot of, it's a lot of positions.
I know
There,
this.
there are, it's kind of like.
So are there more positions that are union than not union?
It depends on what you count.
Probably.
It's kind of like, I think, when you look at senior worker,
Mhm.
they end up being employees. I think when you work part election workers, because there's a
Oh,
stipend.
well, none of those are union
So
people.
they're not union people, but I think I think,
But but you've got a stipend.
well, but that's the thing, it's kind of like, we need
You're
to
not
be clear,
really-
we're
you
not
are-
counting
I
the
guess,
stipend people for elections, it's kind of like, so. Because there is the small piece that comes from that, and we have to fill out
yeah,
W-4s.
yeah,
It's kind of like, so with that, it's kind of like that is reportable to the IRS, that it doesn't, what did I read today? We are special employees.
We're special.
Yeah, so election workers are considered special employees for the town. It's
okay.
kind of, so that all gets into how do you separate, what do you want to separate, and
I guess I was just looking at.
you're looking
regular
at,
employees.
you're looking at the regular
Yeah,
employees,
just
but,
the regular full-time.
well, they'll see that full-time versus part-time versus fractional.
Well,
Per call firefighters, yes or no,
and then you have, what is it,
Per diem.
the summer
Right, right.
hires that for the
right?
cemetery of Park.
Interim, yeah, it's kind of like, so as we hit numbers, we need to be clear where it's coming from.
Be a fractional employee, like those plumbers that work like 80 hours or something, you know, there's that line in the,
less
in the
than-
BVA that's
Yeah.
like $800 for a plumber, would he be considered like?
plumbing
Well, the plumbing,
The plumbing
Inspector,
inspector.
yeah, would that be
I
considered a fractional employee?
would think so, I don't know.
I don't know,
Yeah,
is that a
it's-
part-time employee?
well,
Yeah, right.
because
I think it's anyone under 19,
and anybody under
19
19
hours per week.
is fractional between,
So there's a lot of like library staff,
once,
that's under
yeah,
19.
yeah, exactly,
Okay.
library staff is.
Or anybody like council on aging probably has some staff that's under 19.
That's
Yeah.
probably,
Administrative
Yeah.
people here sometimes.
did they have
Yeah.
volunteers that work
I
at
don't
the
know, do
library?
they?
Or
do
are
they have
they,
any volunteers?
They have volunteers too.
Well, volunteers, but they don't get
They-
paid
No, I
don't
know.
get paid.
or stipend or anything,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I don't.
They're all
No,
volunteers,
it-
yeah.
But you do have volunteers.
Yeah, library.
just like,
Didn't the fire department used to be all volunteer?
All the time. What?
Real long time ago, maybe. It's
What?
kind of like, strictly volunteer. There were always a couple of full-time, but with the work that they're doing between EMS and fire, you have full-time staff now.
How many full
And again, if everybody's out of town at work, you're on-call people, so you need a reliable force that's here to fight the fire.
Well, it's not like it used to be back in the fifties and sixties where your mills were running and, you know,
Mhm.
they knew there was gonna be a fire, you know, they can't do that.
Ring the bell and they all
they,
leave. the
yeah, they
building.
blow the whistle and everybody
They run,
comes,
right.
yeah.
They kind of,
I mean, when I first moved to Wesker, they had a huge on-call fire department that when I called 911. And we were on well water, so there's no hydrants. You should have seen, I never saw so many cars show up. And then the little pumper truck
Yes.
with the water in it,
Yep.
they go. But there must have been 50 cars with 50
Right,
on-call
it's-
firemen coming.
yeah, they ring the bell. It's kind of like back in the day.
Back, you know, it's.
We used to have the horns when there was no school, they'd ring the
Oh, the
horns. at
horns.
the fire station. you'd blow the-
32 was like downtown and,
Yeah.
you know.
Right, it's kind
Yeah.
of like, so when there was a fire, the horns would fall in
Oh,
town.
yeah, I
Three
remember.
long, 2 short, 32.
Yeah, I can remember those,
Yep.
yeah, those haunts, even in the city, they
Yeah.
had haunts going for something, maybe it was the air raid
Yeah, yeah.
practices or whatever.
So, okay, so that,
So there could be, I mean, if you counted everybody,
well,
there's
that's the
probably
thing,
a
it's
lot
kind of
of,
like, so I think, you know, when we say,
I'm thinking more of the day-to-day.
That's what I was thinking.
yeah, day-to-day
Even
operation.
though they are, you know, part-timers,
Some-
it's still a day-to-day person.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, even if you
Is
work,
it part-time people belong to the union?
Yes,
I mean, yeah.
yeah,
So there you
part-time,
go.
yes.
Hmm,
It's kind of like, it'd be people 20 to 32 hours.
Okay,
32 is
Oh,
full-time,
right.
so 20 to 30 hours.
Okay.
So we're looking at, you really, it's what it sounds like you want. Full-time, part-time,
Oh,
and fractional that work the day to day. And you don't necessarily want, do you want people, do you wanna know, like, if somebody works say 10 hours a week, that's like a point. 0.25.
So that point, yeah,
0.25 full-time equivalents, if, do you wanna add them up, so you work that way, or do you just wanna know every?
I don't know, I didn't think it was gonna be that out of the question, I thought maybe come on.
But I can, well, now that we talked about it, I can see why it could be that hard of a.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That
It's-
hard of a
it's kind of
question,
like
but like you, I was, in my mind, I was just thinking. How many people?
Exactly,
How many-
like, they
how
show up
many
every day and they're here,
departments?
you know.
Yeah.
Right.
I wasn't thinking about 10 hours and 12 hours.
You know, I used to have,
Oh, well.
I had a job once where I had to track over, I don't know how many hundreds of people to 1/10 of it.
1/10 of an hour, yeah, yeah.
And track their hours, and I'm talking a couple of hundred people.
Kinda.
I had that's when I was good at spreadsheets.
So, hey, if we're looking for that, we can try to dig it out, I just wanted, try to get that parameters around
Yeah.
what we're, and do you wanna count water department? In the-
Oh, because they're kind of like,
They're
they're like self-sufficient, aren't they?
most,
Sort of,
Sort of.
Sort of.
right,
sort of.
their benefits come from us, so their
But that-
salaries are paid from water enterprise fund.
But don't they turn money back into
They-
the
they do
town
the-
to kind of
the
cover the
400.
benefit?
Right.
Cover the
To cover the
benefits.
benefits and accounting services and the other services they do use for the town.
Okay,
So-
so
But it, again, just getting into,
how many, cause, yeah, they kind of, they're town employees, but they're
they're not paid from general fund.
Yeah,
general,
so that,
yeah,
they probably are union
but-
people too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say.
yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Hello,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm Richard Shuford. Republican Town Committee has this room reserved tonight,
At what time?
7 to 9.
Okay.
Wow,
Sorry to bother you,
I
but,
didn't know, okay,
yeah, we signed up with Sabrina.
okay,
She confirmed it by email to me.
okay.
Okay, we're not, how much longer have you got to go?
Well, I'd say we just have to set our next meeting and.
Yeah, we've got a few minutes. We're not gonna start for about 15 minutes. So-
Okay.
So just
Okay, thank
finish
you.
up. I'll.
Yep, thanks for coming in, appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so. Next meeting, I will have discussions with Board of Selectmen, see what we come up with for a joint meeting, to go over budget. Other than that, Dave, I know you're excused next week, Thursday.
Is this?
Okay.
So,
And so next Thursday, is gonna be Board of Health meeting.
yeah,
date,
22nd.
22nd. And in the meantime, I'll.
22nd.
yeah, 22nd, that's the Thursday.
Yeah.
And then we would meet after that, right?
And then we'll meet again after that, so probably.
Okay, so maybe at the Board of Health, we can figure out our next meeting.
Right, yeah, it is a joint, so yeah, we can now and then work and see what the next meeting is.
And, okay.
I hope like Sabrina can work out some date that works for enough of you and enough of us.
Right.
And give Nelson enough time, and still give people enough time.
That's right, everybody,
But the time is
Sometimes
running
you
on.
don't, sometimes you don't have
right,
time.
and that's why we had the conversation, because we know it has to happen quickly.
I think next year we need to start earlier.
I think
Oh,
we
yeah,
need time to-
We gotta have
Right after
more
Well, I
fun.
think, I think we all have to respect the fact that it changed on us in March too. We were chucking along and then that changed,
No,
but
I
I think it's.
time earlier, I really.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Really changed.
differently.
You know, I'm sorry to have to,
All right, we're done.
bother you. I thank you for doing what you're doing. It's a tough thing and you've got crazy circumstances, so.
We so should I make a motion to?
Yeah, we have to do a,
Yeah, we
We'll see.
We would do that, yeah. make,
I'll move that we adjourn.
And I'll second it.
7 PM. Sure. Okay, we had a motion and a second, roll call vote,
Carol Rodriguez, yes?
Dave Walker, yes.
Carol Fox, yes.
Don Hayes, yes, it's unanimous, we can adjourn, we'll meet again next, in a week.
It's Thursday.
Okay.